Joining me today is frequent guest co-host Ed Freifogel. Hey Ed, people can't see you unless you're talking. I think that's the
Wait,
way the
what?
algorithm
Oh,
works.
right. Sorry. I actually didn't know that. I did not realize that. I haven't. You know what? I know you've been pushing this out on YouTube, but I have not actually watched the videos. I don't really consume content on YouTube. So,
I'll see if for this episode I can have side-by-side video rather than just the person talking, and then
well, just
people
for
can see your
reference, I was
antics.
doing this. I was going like, "Hey, look at me! Look at me!" So,
Hey Ed, Microconf. Did you hear that Microconf Europe is going to go ahead in October this year, the second
you,
year of COVID?
you know what, Steve? I did hear that, and my name is on the early access list. I will be there if there's any freaking way possible. I loved it. I
Uh,
loved I like Microconf in general. I've been to two Microconf Europes, one in Lisbon, where I think was where we actually met. But I went 2 years ago to Croatia. It is a phenomenal venue, great hotel. I swam in the Adriatic. I drank Croatian wine on the terrace. It was great, and if there's any way possible, I am going to be there again. So
You didn't mention there being a romantic sunset while all this was happening. Was there a romantic sunset?
you know what? There are a lot of attributes I can use to describe Microconf Europe, but romantic is not really one. So,
Oh,
but it
harsh.
truly was a great time, and frankly, after all the lockdowns and everything, I'm ready. I'm going to be there. So,
Okay.
assuming I can get vaccinated by then, and
Yeah.
luckily though, the because I did see they want you to be vaccinated if you come. Um, but it seems the pace of vaccinations in Europe is accelerating quite a bit, so that's quite good. And October's still a couple months away, so I'm actually hoping. My personal goal has been right before Microconf Europe, Oktoberfest in Munich.
Okay.
So I'm ready. I'm ready.
So go to Munich, drink way too much beer, and then go to Dubrovnik and drink too much wine.
It sounds like a plan, Steve. Sounds like a plan. So
I have
then
to
you
say
don't always have to make it complicated. Sometimes.
yeah. I have to say I'm a little bit pessimistic about it. I really want it to go ahead, and if I can go, I will try to go. But just looking at the rates in Europe of vaccination, so earlier this year here in Spain, the authorities were saying they're aiming for 70% vaccination by June. And then they pushed it out to July. And then just last week, they said they're aiming for 70% vaccination by August. And I predict there's going to be a couple more delays. And I'm not the youngest, but I'm healthy. So I'm not going to be one of the first in line. I'm probably going to be in that last 30% to get vaccinated. Hey, I'd get vaccinated tomorrow if I could. But realistically, I think it's going to be a fine line between being ready in time to be able to get to Croatia.
You know what?
I'm t-
I'm more optimistic, Steve. I think they, obviously there have been some bumps in the rollout on the production of the vaccine, but also figuring out how to distribute it. But until now, they've been doing all the, the super old people and everything. So that
Mhm.
probably is the slowest group. And I don't follow the Spanish numbers, but in Germany, last week we had two massive record days in a row, which are way higher than like double the previous days. So I think it's accelerating a lot, and I think it's going to accelerate even faster.
I definitely hope for the best.
So,
But the second reason why I probably don't see myself actually making it to Microconf Europe is that we have a backlog of family visits to do. And I tell you, the first thing we're doing when we can safely travel is going to see family. Our daughter hasn't seen her grandparents in Italy for a long time, and her cousins in other parts of Spain. And that's our highest priority. We did think about already, it would be nice to go from Italy, where the grandparents are, on the Adriatic Sea, across the Adriatic to Dubrovnik. If we could tie the two together, it'd be perfect. But we'll see. We'll see. I probably will be deciding last moment if it goes ahead, and I really hope it does.
well, I'll be there.
Are you
so,
are you tempted to nominate yourself as a speaker? I
you
said
know
it's a call
what?
for speakers.
Yeah, maybe. Why not? I had that idea. I think we talked about this like 2 years ago after I came back from the last one, where I was going to propose a talk about super tactical things you can do. So not these like some of the talks were very theoretical.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wanted to give just a long laundry list of super tactical things to do. So, and I actually did it once. I wrote down part of the list because I was going to speak at FemtoConf, and then FemtoConf got canceled last year, and so I went on Benedict's podcast, and we went through some of the lists. So sure, why not? Why not? I'll propose. I mean, I don't know. I know they also like to get new people and things like that. So whatever, I'll try. I bet either way, I'll be there. So if it's at all possible, I'm ready. I've set it as a personal goal after many months of lockdown. So
great. I'm sure lots of people would love to see you speak if you can. Podcast review we got. This is really nice. Did you see me post this on Twitter? The review we got.
I think so. Yeah. What remind me?
I'm going to read it out. So it's from Stephen Traynor, and he gives us the subject line or the title, Mental Solace for Bootstrappers. And he writes, this is a great show. The hosts are super approachable, interesting, modest. I'll let our listeners decide which one of us is interesting and which one is modest. And they're open in discussing their successes and challenges in life as a bootstrapper. I've picked up many a good tip and learned about interesting products, services, tricks, and techniques of which I wasn't previously aware. Regular guest slots keep the material nicely varied. Listening to this will broaden your horizons, and even better, you'll know that when you hit bumps in the road, you're not alone. How nice is that?
That is a well-crafted review. So now
And
you're
it
sure
wasn't
this,
my mother? It wasn't your mother?
Exactly. You're sure this person actually exists and wasn't, you sock puppeting or.
So I've had a look at how you make reviews in Apple Podcasts because that's where it comes from. I think it's the only place you can really do like meaningful podcast reviews is on Apple Podcasts, and it's not a straightforward process. And you can only do it, as far as I can tell, on Apple products. You can't do a review from Android or Windows. I might be wrong, but
yeah, Steve, I have my other podcast, my Geo podcast, and I listen to a lot of podcasts, and people are always like, give us a rating, give us a review. I never ask for any of that crap. You know what? If you feel like giving a review, do it. If you can't be bothered, don't. I mean, I listen to podcasts at the gym or whatever, or I used to when I went to the gym. And, it's just like people, you're listening to some good content, and they're like, please give us a review. Like, then you got to dig out your phone, jumps forward 15 seconds. It's just a pain. I mean, so, I just take the approach. I come on this podcast to talk with you, Steve. And if other people want to listen, then fantastic. And if they get something out of it, that's also nice. And, if people have feedback, that's great. Yeah, but I'm not, if you feel like you really do, if you don't. Fine.
Yeah. I appreciate the feedback in any form it comes, whether it's reviews or direct emails or Twitter. It's all really helpful. It keeps the momentum and the energy and the motivation going. So the last sentence, what was that? Even better, you know that when you hit bumps in the road, you're not alone. Trigger anything, Ed?
Well, there have been some bumps and some loneliness. Frankly, a lot of loneliness. But although, of course, obviously, I'm not the solo founder of my company. I have a partner, a co-founder. So, which does help a lot. But yeah, I mean, dude, this is why I'm going to Microconf Europe. Because it is important to not feel alone and to feel like you have others to share the struggles with. So, very true. Very true.
Hey, what's been happening lately with OpenCage and Ed?
Well, we just had Easter break, so my kids are off school for 2 weeks. So,
nothing happened.
Yeah, so much less happened. Actually, went away for a couple of days to the mountains, which was nice. But so anyway, yeah, not a lot happened just beyond the day-to-day running of the business. I think we talked about this last time. We're gearing up to launch a kind of new version of our service or a new product, depending on how you count it. We're still doing our research on that to see whether it makes sense, because it's something we get asked about frequently, but it's not clear that it's a good business like people ask about it because they want it, but then it's not clear they're necessarily willing to pay a sufficient amount for it. So lots of research there, but we do have one potentially bigger customer who said they'd be willing to definitely commit to paying for it. So probably makes sense to go forward. Anyway, that will probably be the main project from now till the summer, when the kids get off school and when I also try to work a bit less. And hopefully we'll be traveling a bit more and things like that. So
but you can't tell us exactly what the project
no,
is.
I can. It's I just don't want to lose everyone in technical minutiae. So we do geocoding, which is you send us an address and we give you back the coordinates. A lot of people want geo search, which is, let's say you type BAR and then in the search box, it suggests Barcelona. Okay. So and we see some people trying to use our service in this way, and our service currently doesn't support it, mainly because it's technically difficult. Like building a basic search auto suggest is not that difficult, but we don't have the underlying database of locations that people would expect. People want the same level of quality as Google Maps. And then, but anyway, so some people ask about this, and I'm always like, okay, imagine we build exactly what you want. How much would you pay for it? They'd be like, oh, it should be free. So yeah, I'll dive right into that. I'll get right on that. But let's see. There are some variations on this that are a bit different, where we think we could add some value. And as I said, we do have one customer who's willing to pay for this. The question is, do we just build it just for that customer, or do we roll it out for everyone? Which would then also require some effort, because it would be like a second product. So kind of revamping our site for a second product and things like that. So that's where we are, Steve.
Good luck. If you decide to go ahead with it, good luck. It sounds really interesting, actually, despite what you said.
Well, the technical aspects of it. Yeah, the technical aspects are very interesting. But then the question is this the best use of our time?
Yeah.
Versus so.
Is that true?
Well, I have one other topic I wanted to bring, maybe, assuming you have no more questions about GeoSearch. But I know a couple weeks ago, you interviewed the founder of ChartMogul here,
Nick Franklin. Yeah.
Yes, very good interview. We are customers of one of ChartMogul's competitors, which is Barometrics. Which I think is a very well-known product in the SaaS world. Anyway, we're annual customers, and our annual renewal comes up in I think like 6 weeks or so. And your pricing is based on your MRR, and we've kind of moved above the threshold where it's not going to be kind of more costly than I would want it to be, particularly because we. As with many of these products, there's lots of bells and whistles behind the scenes. But reality is, we don't use a lot of those features. We basically just use the feature of give us the basic stats of what's our MRR, what's our churn rate, things like that. The very basic stats, and looking at how that evolves over time. So the question is, should we renew with Barometrics, or should we use the price increase as a reason to maybe look for an alternative? And so I've been kind of surveying the landscape there, trying to figure out what to do. And so what you use ChartMogul, yeah?
I use ChartMogul, yeah. I've been using it for 3 years, I guess.
You use it for both of your products, or only one?
Yeah, Sabre Feedback falls very, very easily within the free tier, so it costs me nothing. But yeah, Feature Upvote we pay for, and it's not a cheap product, I have to say, compared to some other SaaS products we use.
I think ChartMogul, I did look at it, and it's even more expensive than Barometrics, or at least it would be for us at our tier. And I don't know. The issue is, obviously, I don't mind people charging for their software. It's not that I'm expecting stuff for free, but as I said, they have a lot of additional features that we don't use.
I hear you.
And as our revenue goes up, both of them have the model that as your MRR goes up, the pricing goes up, and I don't feel like I'm getting additional value. So that kind of, then no one likes to pay more and get the same. So anyway, I've been kind of looking around, trying to figure out what to do there. Is it worth switching? Because then if you do switch, then I don't know if you still have the history. Probably not. I mean, with all of these services, you kind of connect your Stripe account, but then we have a fair number of customers that pay outside of Stripe. Typically, also the bigger customers, because they want to just pay by invoice. So those need to then manually be entered and stuff. So it's not zero work to quit. And it's also like, do you lose the history? Like, do we start with the new one fresh? I have a little bit of experience with that because, as listeners may recall, we were originally a UK company, and then because of Brexit, we moved to Germany. So in doing that, we had to get a new Stripe account, and thus we had to get a new Barometrics account, and we kind of lost the history. I mean, for a while we had two Barometrics accounts, and I could look at the old one, but it wasn't kind of particularly smooth experience. And so that is kind of annoying to lose the history and be able, then you're unable to say like, oh, how does this compare with how we did 2 years ago or whatever. So I don't know what to do there. I guess I need to do some more research. The step one has been, I've been looking at alternatives, and I have one dilemma that I kind of want to discuss with you, and that might be interesting for the community. And that is, I found one alternative, which is a site called MRR.io, which, as the name implies, it kind of calculates your MRR.
Actually, a really good name.
It is a really good name. It is a really good name. And what I really like about this is the pricing is very straightforward in terms of like, you connect your Stripe account and it calculates the MRR and the few basic statistics that we need. And it's kind of flat fee. So which I think is totally reasonable. But the fee is not zero. I mean, happy to pay for it, but it's not growing continually.
So why don't you jump in? This sounds great. Why are you not switching over?
It does sound great, and I started looking at it, but then this is why I wanted to discuss with you, because then in doing some research about it, it looks like the business is kind of one guy's side project, right? And I don't know how active he's been on it. There are some indications that it's not particularly active, the development of it, or at least like the Twitter account, I think, hasn't tweeted in a couple of years or something. So then I'm like, well, can I trust that this will still be there? So I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
That's really interesting, because this is exactly where a lot of us are. We are the ones with the small project or the side project trying to get customers, and it's always the concern. Maybe people will realize I'm just one person and that'll turn them off. And what do? I always tell people, embrace it. Just be very honest about who you are. Use we, because you're a company, not a person, but try and use your perceived weakness as actually a strength. Hey, yes, it's just me, and that means I really care about what you have to say, blah, 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 blah. I mean, show that you have a personality, show that the product's developing, although it is a problem if the person hasn't updated Twitter in a couple of years.
Yeah, that's just it. I'm not sure the product is developing.
Okay.
I mean, it's more like this was just based on a cursory examination. So, but it looks like kind of like 3 years ago or so, he was really excited about this, and he put in the work, and since then it's kind of stagnated, whatever. His life has moved on. There's been a pandemic, but as far as I can tell, the product's still there. And frankly, I'm sure the software, still works, and it would probably meet my need perfectly. But
yeah. How much cheaper is it? Are we talking an order of magnitude cheaper, or a few euros cheaper, a few dollars cheaper?
No,
without revealing too much.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's like 20% or whatever of what Barometrics would be, or something.
Wow. Okay, that's a huge
saving. It's meaningful.
Yeah. Especially when as a bootstrapper, the company's money is your own, right? It's not like you're spending some boss's money. What you spend on a service is money you can't take out as dividends or pay.
Yeah, exactly. And more to the point, like I said, it's what I don't want is that as we grow, I end up having to pay Barometrics more and more and more, or Mogul or whomever, right? It's fundamentally also this philosophical point of like, you have this software, the software calculates what I need, but why should I always be paying more to run that calculation?
Yeah.
So,
Nick from Chartmogul explained why they have that model in an interview. It was quite interesting. And as time grows, they aim to be a smaller percentage, even though the amount's growing that they charge you, it becomes a smaller and smaller percentage of your total revenue, eventually leveling off at 0.25% of revenue. It was an interesting model to hear how they're doing it. Now, the fact that this one you found, the alternative, is not doing that, it makes me wonder if they haven't sorted out their pricing yet. If they're so much cheaper than their competitor,
Well,
that
I
to
just think
me,
it again. I haven't set it up fully yet. Like I haven't connected my Stripe account and everything, but the you know it looks like it just does the basic calculations that I need. Whereas I don't follow ChartMogul as actively, but like on Barometrics, they keep adding all these different analysis features and things you can use, and like dunning emails or whatever. But the thing is, I don't use any of that. They keep adding all these
yeah,
features that I don't need, or like when someone cancels, it'll be like, let's figure out why this guy canceled. I'm like, I know why he canceled. He already told me why he
yeah,
canceled. He
yeah,
canceled because he
yeah,
doesn't need my service anymore.
yeah,
And so, and then on top of that, I have to say, Barometrics recently changed ownership. I suspect many listeners will know because the founder, former owner, Josh Pigford, kind of well-known guy in the SaaS world, and has been on the Startups for the Rest of Us podcast several times and things like that, talking about the story, and always was very open about the business. Anyways, since then, there have been a couple things that kind of make you like, let me give that from Barometrics that have also kind of turned me off. So as an example, they sent an email the other day that was like, we will now give you a loan, a revenue-based financing. And so I was like, don't really need a loan, but okay, let's check this out. And I opened the email and it's like, if your revenue is at least X and you are a US company, you now qualify for this. And I'm like, guys, you know exactly my revenue and you know precisely I'm not a US company. Why'd you send me this email? Why are you spamming me with this crap? So it's things like that where you just kind of think like, this feels like they're kind of asleep on the wheel, and the prices are going up.
mm-hmm.
It's not, kind of, I don't know where the journey is going, but it might be time for me to get out.
Yeah,
So,
interesting. It's interesting what happens when a product changes ownership. We've seen that with FastSpring. FastSpring, which I used to rave about FastSpring when I was using it back when it was a young product in 2008 or 9. I blog openly about it. I even got some contact with this original CEO of FastSpring. I always enjoyed talking to him. And then they sold out to I think maybe to a private equity firm who then wanted to start to, as far as I can tell, now I'm just saying this as an outsider looking in, but it looked to me like they decided to try and squeeze more money out of it and reduce costs. And the reduced costs is what really shows. It's just over the years, it's just gone down and down in service. And I long for the days back when the founders owned it, because then they actually cared, right? It was their baby. And if you complained about something, they actually had some sort of a personal, emotional stake in getting that fixed.
Sure.
And now it's just a headache. Just this week I had, or was it last week, I had a customer, a Sabre feedback customer, complain that they suddenly got started charging tax on their monthly invoices, even though they're a non-profit and have submitted already to FastSpring a tax exempt certificate. And then I tried to contact FastSpring about this, and it's just a maze of pages and forms until I finally get to one. And then it's asking me questions, which is kind of like your story with the Barometrics promotional email. These questions they should know because it's my account, like I'm a customer.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm talking to somebody completely separate from being able to actually know about what FastSpring does. And yeah, I wonder if sometimes this is the fate of many of the companies. Many companies we use, one day the owner will sell them and then the new owners will take a different direction.
Well, I get that as the business gets bigger or whatever, also you can't know every customer and all the nuances of their situation or whatever. But it just, I don't think it took an Einstein to figure out they don't need to send me an email targeting U.S.
Yeah.
businesses if we're clearly not a U.S. business. So anyway.
Yeah.
So, if any listeners have opinions on that, should we stay with Barometric? Should we switch to another provider? Should we, I'd love to hear it.
Hey, so why did you do this research into MRR.io? Was there something about it that immediately made you think maybe this is not right? Was there like the landing page gave you warning signals or something about it? Was it the price? Was the price suspiciously low? I'm asking from the perspective of somebody who makes
no, I thought the
SaaS and wants
price.
to know.
Yeah, I thought the price was very fair. Honestly, off the top of my head, I don't remember exactly what the price was. I think it was like $20 a month or $25 a month. Am I way wrong? Let me open it up and have a look. But it's just that one of the first things I do, and I don't think I'm alone in this, is I'm like, okay, let me find out who's behind this, because this isn't just some service we're going to pay for. It's like I'm going to be giving this business like all the data about my business.
Okay.
And then that, frankly, that also raises like GDPR issues, because obviously they're going to have. So I'm going to have to publicly say, like, I use this, and I'm going to have to tell my customers, like, we're now sharing data with this entity, and which I'm not that concerned about, but I don't think they're doing anything. But then the first thing is like, well, let me see who's behind this. What exactly is going on here?
Yeah.
So I'm just looking at it now. It's $20 a month, so $240 a year, which.
But wait, is it? If you click on the see all prices, I'm looking at the pricing page too.
Okay, so it would be a bit more than that for us, but it wouldn't be massive. It would still be much. It would still be about half the price of Barometrics for us.
So the advantage of having a high price per customer is it's for the audience. So we're both looking at the pricing page now of this MRR, and they charge you based on how many paying customers you have.
Exactly.
So if you have 250 paying customers, so I guess it's up to that. It's $19 per month. 500 is $39. 1,000 paying customers is $69. It sounds like you just go up in jumps as you reach paying customers. Now, if your product has lots of customers paying $10 per month, say 1,000 customers paying $10 per month to get $10,000 per MRR, you're going to be paying a lot more than if you're charging $100 to 100 customers.
Right.
I think this pricing model is actually what ChartMogul had originally, according to my interview with Nick.
Oh,
and
right.
they found they were running into problems because customers that did have low price products were writing and saying, hey, this is not right that we're paying so much just because our price is low per customer. Can we get a discount? And they were having to say, oh, well, fair point. We'll give you a discount here. And they were managing all these kind of different hidden pricing points. And the new model they use where they charge you a percentage of your revenue, they said it just made a lot of problems go away and everything got simpler.
Yeah, I don't know, man. But see, I'm in the opposite boat. We don't have thousands and thousands of customers who are very low ticket. We have fewer higher value customers.
Yeah.
So, okay, I do need to look at this more closely and figure it out. Anyway, but then there's this other one, right? There's wait, I keep wanting to call it Price Intelligently. It's not Price Intelligently. It's ProfitWell. ProfitWell is their brand. Okay. And this ProfitWell looks great from the product point of view, or it looks like they have all the functionalities of Barometrics or ChartMogul. But here's the crazy thing: it's free, which then it does kind of make me wonder, like, how can that be? Like that seems kind of odd to me, right?
So how do they make money?
Well, exactly. I don't know. Well, what I've heard is they try to then upsell you. I mean, they have a free service, and then they do have paid services as well. But I don't need any of these paid services, and so I don't think I would purchase any of them. It does kind of worry me because a typical model where people give you services for free is that they're making money off the data somehow, and no, like you can't. That's kind of a breach of trust with my customers if I'm somehow using their data, the fact that they're a customer to somehow, like, I wouldn't feel comfortable with that at all.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's kind of a dilemma which way to go here, because
You also raise a good point about the GDPR, which really affects everybody, but especially you and me, as we run European-based companies.
yeah.
We can't just suddenly say, "Oh, we're going to stop using this service, third-party service that we send data to. We're going to use this one instead," without doing research, without making sure they are also GDPR compliant. They have a data processing agreement. We have to notify our customers. It's part of the GDPR, I believe, says that if somebody's already signed up for your service, knowing that there's these certain people you're sharing data with, if you then start sharing data with somebody else, you have to inform existing customers.
Do you though, Steve? I mean, do you have to? What does it mean to inform them? Is it enough to like have a blog post or change your GDPR page, or is it you have to actively email them?
That's a good question. I think you have to actively email them. And this actually stops me from being too rash to move to other services. For
Yeah.
example, last year, a content person suggested we added something like Hotjar, one of those like services that kind of tracks how people move around the page of your website, what they click on. And I couldn't just add that without telling everybody. And that made me think, do I really want to go to the trouble of informing my users for this service that I don't really want to have on the site anyway? So it really did stop me from sharing data so openly and quickly, which I think is kind of a success for the GDPR if it's making people think like that.
No, in general, I'm also pro GDPR. I mean, I'm pro the ideas behind GDPR. You can argue about the exact execution. But the fundamental concept that your data has value and it shouldn't just be passed along to people you've never agreed to. That I do have sympathy with. But like in this case with this type of service, I think of it as like obviously my accountant knows the names of my customers. Right? Because I have to produce the invoices and stuff and give them to my accountant and say, here's how much we made and here's how we made it and whatever. And, this customer is in that country and we need to charge VAT in that country. So it's kind of, and maybe I switch accountants, right? And I don't really think that would be something. Do I need to email all my customers and say, hey, I'm thinking of switching accountants? Like, that doesn't make sense, right?
I'm pretty sure not. And I think people look for ways to make the GDPR look ridiculous. And this is heading down that path. Whereas I try to see it for like with the spirit in which it's intended, which is just that you don't go sharing data willy-nilly with other people and you don't know who they're sharing data with and so on.
Exactly.
Yeah, and especially with the security issues, I also want to make sure that people I'm sharing data with are also concerned about security, and the GDPR also mentions that. Yeah.
Right.
Well, we've really gone off topic, huh?
Well, you didn't solve my problem, Steve. Come on. I was told when there are bumps in the road, I would get solutions, and
no, I don't think that's what the quote said. I'm going to go back to it again. You'll know that when you hit bumps in the road, you are not alone. There's no promises of solutions.
Oh, fuck. All right.
Ed, you're not alone. I mean, I sound like I'm a bit joking, but really, it is really nice to myself when I listen to podcasts like ours to hear that other people are experiencing the same problems I'm having, the same mud that I'm stuck in. They also have to somehow get through that mud.
Well, if anyone out there is also facing the potential move away from their SaaS metrics provider and has already done all the research, they can feel free to send me all that research and tell me what I should do.
Especially if something went wrong.
Exactly.
That's what we want to know about. Okay, Ed, it's time to wrap this up. So that's all for today. Bye.
Always a pleasure, Steve. Take it easy. Bye.